Pod. This is going to be so fun for me. Hi, I'm Amy Porter, and this is my podcast. My mission is to show people how to empower themselves through music, business, and media. I try to see as clearly as possible how I can help. I showcase the music that I've played and the people I've met along the way. I'm a wife and a stepmom. You might know me as a professor, a performer, a producer, a publisher, a recording artist. I'm the founder of a couple of nonprofits. Welcome in to my PorterFlute Pod.
Welcome to PorterFlute Pod. I'm so happy you're here.
Noniko, welcome to PorterFlute Pod.
Hello, Professor Porter. It's so nice to be here with you today.
I miss you when you're gone. And when you come on your social media feeds, my heart swells because it's so good to know that you're happy. You are, and happy, I'm learning, is not this emotion of euphoria. It's just making sure you got all your ducks in a row. You have a foundation of your life. You have a place to be. You have a place to call home, whether you call it your original home or you call it your mobile home, right?
Very good way to put it.
Right? Where we move around a lot. So welcome to the podcast. We'll just start at the beginning, where we met.
Okay.
And why we are together for the rest of our lives.
Okay. Yeah, so I remember in high school, when I was in high school, and then there was this beautiful poster about a flute queen from the USA coming to Taiwan, and they're hosting a flute masterclass for anyone who's interested, limited space, of course. And I asked my flute teacher at that time and said, hey, I would like to join and be a student for her. If possible, can you slot me in? And she said, yeah, I'll work on it. So all I remember was I went to your concert, was amazed by the Burton Sonatine. I still remember that. The first piece you played was Burton Sonatine. And I was like, what? That's just gorgeous. And I was so excited to go to the master class, and I went. I remember we had a good time. I don't know if you remember. We had a good time. I remember we had a great time. And I remember you asking me after the master class, it's like, do you want to come? I have a summer program at the school I teach. And I was like, sure, I'll write that down. And then the next summer I went to Amples, and the rest is history, basically. I fell in love with Michigan. I love the environment, I love the school, and I love your teaching. And it just seems a perfect fit for my next step in life, which was college, to audition for the university that I love so much during the high school music camp and study with you. That's what I remember.
I think it's important to recognize someone young, and it doesn't matter if you don't feel you don't know what you're going to give to this human. You just know that they are special. I just knew you were special. It usually comes from a very unique set of circumstances. The student has to want to be with a teacher. Yeah. So you are from Taiwan and you are named Noniko. You have to just talk about that for a moment.
Sure. So Noniko is actually a Japanese name. Now, everybody thought I speak Japanese, which I wish I do. I took 2 years of Japanese in Michigan just because I really wanted to learn it. I took 2 years of it, didn't practice at all afterwards. So of course now I forgot a lot of it. But yes, it's a Japanese name. I am Taiwanese. I want to speak Japanese. But how I got this Japanese name is just simply because both sides of my grandparents, like mom's side, dad's side, they were all educated in Japan before, because that's right after the Japanese occupation period for Taiwan. They happen to be more on the Japanese culture side. And then my father ended up working for a Japanese company as well. So there's like whole Japanese culture lurking in our household. So it's just a thing for the grandparents to name the grandkids with a Japanese nickname. And so I grew up being called Noniko in-house. So I'm actually very used to being called Noniko. Like the only time people would call me by my official Chinese name would be when I was in elementary school and middle school, in school. And also when I'm in trouble, when your mom would call you by your full name. And that's when the only circumstances that I would be called my official Chinese name. Otherwise, like I always say, it's like people call me Noniko all the time. I'm used to it.
Well, thank you for that story. So you come to Michigan and audition, and I'm ready. What are the barriers you faced? Because you at 15 and then now at 17 or 16, anyone that age is going to want their dream to come true.
Yep.
And then they realize, there are walls put up for me that I have to climb over. What were some of those walls?
Well, one big one was to take the SAT and also the language exam, both at the same time. So I opt for preparing heavily for the English exam. And the SAT just happened to be like a byproduct of it. So preparing for them on top of preparing for all the audition repertoire were a big thing for me. And also at the same time, you probably didn't know this story, but you would know this now. Like at that time when I was in my arts academy high school, the flute teacher at that high school actually didn't know I was preparing for this audition. It was my other flute teacher who put me into your masterclass that helped me prepare for the audition. So there was all this drama going on behind the scene during my high school time. It was so much drama. My parents weren't involved. They were scared. I was scared of being kicked out of the high school program. Also preparing for this big audition, also trying to stay, not being expelled from the school. So there was all these things going on, and we have to like keep our heads cool. It's like, okay, the one goal is to finish the audition strong. Everything else can be dealt with afterwards. So that was the whole roller coaster thing altogether. So that was quite some pressure, but we're glad that I'm glad that it came through all right.
You smile through the whole thing. I would have never known. And you're calm as calm. Amazing. Cool as a cucumber,
Yeah.
as they say.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So you come to Michigan, and now I'm going to tell a little bit of my perspective. I had a new incoming doctoral student who is now Dr. Erica Boysen at UNC.
Oh, yeah, Erica, yes.
And you tell me, I'm taking this class and I'm going to be working in video and camera work. And I was like, oh, that's great. And I'm going to be arranging things for this video. And I thought, oh, that's great. And so we prepared. Oh my goodness. I think the Rigoletto Fantasy or Carmen Fantasy,
Yes,
one of the Rigoletto Fantasy.
Yeah.
See, I'm remembering this because all you professors out there, my student Noniko here took me on a ride that I didn't realize I was going on. Okay, so it's like someone puts me on the roller coaster. I don't do them well. Okay, and I grab the person next to me. It doesn't matter who you are, I'll grab you. I go there into the Duderstadt, and it's packed. And I'm looking around. It's the biggest screen I've ever seen. It took up an entire wall of it was like a stadium screen. And it wasn't even rectangular. It was the wall.
No,
so
it was
everywhere you look, okay? I grab Erica Boysen. I grab her arm. And I might have even said, I know you don't know me very well, but I'm going to be grabbing you the whole night because I don't know what she's doing. And I know that I taught her all the pieces, but what's happening? And literally, it was my first experience in having a student just like go produce something. I wasn't involved. You were a princess, my Disney princess. You had like this little, at the time we were all wearing these little things in our hair, right? You had this little cat. Oh my gosh, you were beautiful, and everything was poetry.
Actually, I did two recital in undergrad. One is in junior year, one was my senior recital. The biggest reason was because I was so afraid I would mess up my senior recital. I wanted to do a junior one so I know what I'm doing, exactly what am I doing, and how to not mess it up for the senior recital.
Well, Jacques Rosero loved working with you. He'd say, hey, did you know your student is working in the dude? So that was so fun to watch that growth process. So you graduate. What happens? You stay.
So I stayed. Partially, well, the biggest reason was one, I wanted to continue learning and studying with you because I did have this feeling that there are something that's unfinished, like there's something there that I wanted to continue learning. But also the other thing is right after my senior recital, I had kind of a storyboard vision already for a third show. Like by that point, I felt like it's already a trilogy. It's like a movie trilogy. Like by that time, I already knew sort of kind of a rough idea of what I want the final chapter of the trilogy is going to be like. And to produce a show like that, it's better to stay at a venue that you already know the potential. So I kind of wanted to do a third show, which would be my master thesis show. And I wanted to do that in Michigan. So that was like these two big reasons combined together. And thank you for taking me in again. So I stayed in Michigan to do my master's. And since day one, I started writing the script already for the final master thesis show. So that show actually took 2 years of prep nonstop because I started working on it since the first day, basically.
And you created a vision board for this.
Yes, I had a vision board. I wrote a script. It's like a live perform video game. That's the whole idea behind it. It's like a live perform video game with classical music. Like, how amazing is that? That was my whole vision for that show.
So can other people play the shows that you create? Like a game?
That was the idea. Yes, they can. We didn't ended up selling the patches, but the idea is all the visuals are controlled by live flute feed. So the visuals will be individual and react on time for the live show. Like the whole idea was inspired by Disney's Fantasia to have the visual reacts to the music so that the musician doesn't need to be tied up to the visuals. So that was the whole idea behind it. And I ended up working with a XStreamWorks engineer to create that live music visual patches. He programmed the whole thing, and I worked with other people to bring in the whole visual thing together, and it was a huge production. I love it. It's such a ride.
So you graduated, and did you use this show? Could you take it on the road with you?
That was one of the dreams, I would say. I wanted to take that on the road. I wanted to do something bigger and bigger and bigger. But I guess life had a completely different plan for me. So I wanted to do that. I got a job at one of the most prestigious musical institute as their media manager. However, the whole visa thingy didn't work out, so that road was blocked. So that thing didn't happen. However, a completely new venture just opened up amidst of all this. And the show gave me the first job of me breaking into the cruise ship industry as a broadcast producer.
Cruise ship.
I never Yeah, on the cruise ship. Like I was the TV station producer on Royal Caribbean cruise ship. And that was something I never thought about.
Question. I'm sure my producers have the same question. What made you apply for that job? And do you think you had that on your resume? And you're a flute player who has 2 degrees, like from Michigan, but you have this hobby. Why'd you apply for that job?
Yeah, it's a very good question. So, like I said, I was so focused on I wanted to do this, I wanted to do that. My visa didn't work out. Why does my life suck? I was in this whole mess. And then somehow out of the blue, one Michigan alumni, he was a PAT major actually, performing arts technology. He was a PAT major, graduated with an audio engineering degree. He came back to school, and at that time, I already left Ann Arbor. Somehow, out of the blue, he was talking with one of the Deuterstedt staff about his venture working at Carnival as an audio engineer. The staff told him about my story. It's like, hey, maybe you can advise her on something, because this poor girl is like, she got into her dream job, but then they wouldn't sponsor her visa and whatever. Mm-hmm. And he said, oh yeah, tell her to try cruise ship. She would really enjoy it. It's like they use all the newest technology. The shows on the cruise ship are amazing. A lot of people who work in the biggest shows in Vegas had a cruise ship experience on their resume, and I was a perfect jump board for them. So they sent me the info, and I was like, why not? I might as well try it. So I start applying and LinkedIn, doing networking, and then Royal Caribbean opened up. And I sent in my portfolio for the 3 shows I produced in Michigan, and they were like, yeah, apparently you can produce shows. So yeah, broadcast producer, why not?
Own it.
Yeah. And I was like, sure.
You're like, oh my God.
I'll do it. I'll do it.
I always say we all have something we can talk about. We all have something we could go on and on and on about. And even if we don't know kind of how we're doing it, we're just going to keep doing it. I'm so proud of you. So you get on a cruise ship. I've never been on a cruise. And if I do, I'm going to the cruises where you go and where your backdrop is. So talk about that.
I started with Royal Caribbean, going to Cuba. So going to Cuba, it was amazing. And I had the story of do you remember you were guiding me through playing the Mike Mower Sonata Latino? Do you remember you kept saying I was playing all the rhythm right, but I didn't get what salsa is? Like you just say I don't get it, which I know is I don't dance. I don't know what salsa is.
Right. But I didn't ever tell you, 1 second, I have to clarify. I never would tell you that you couldn't feel it.
No, you didn't say that. You just said, your feeling's not there. You're like, the feeling's not there. The salsa thingy, it's not there. And I remember that because my first contract with Royal Caribbean was going to Cuba. And they would do Havana overnight, every 5 days. So I ended up staying in Havana more time than I stayed in Miami. What I did was everybody in Cuba were a dancer. Every bar you go to in Havana has a band, and they all had a flutist. So I walk into this famous bar, and then one day a lady was playing the flute, and she was amazing. So I just walk up to her and say, hey, I'm a flutist. Can I take lesson from you? I really need to learn this Latino salsa flute thingy. Teach me how you play salsa music, basically. And so we ended up having these lessons in the park, because we're just okay, we're going to meet you here on Thursday at 10 a.m. We're going to meet in the park. And she taught me everything about salsa music. And she asked me to show her what Mozart is. So we kind of went into this exchange of musical style, and it was beautiful. I think afterwards I finally got okay, this is what Professor Porter was talking about, the field of salsa, the field of Latino music. That's what it is. So that really helped.
You got to dunk your head in the bucket.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, and as it's happening, that immersion of whatever instrument or type of music it is, it's new, but it should wash over you, and we shouldn't be scared. These new experiences. Okay, so let's move forward to where you are now, which took a couple of years, right?
It took a couple of years, yeah. I started paying attention once I entered this whole cruise ship industry, and now there's a little prestigious, like kind of like a little known segment called the expedition cruise, which basically means they're not those gigantic 7,000 passenger ships. They only take maybe 200 to 300 guests to remote areas where there's no towns, there's no city, there's no human settlements, basically. So they go to the Arctic and they go to Antarctica. And I was like, okay, if I stay in Royal Caribbean for a few years, I'm going to those places. I was like, I want to go there. So just like, okay, navigating through my way in the cruise industry. And then somehow after COVID, I saw this 150-year-old Norwegian expedition company is coming back to business, and they had this position called the expedition digital engineer. I was like, well, that's perfect. It belongs to the expedition team, which will allow me to still go on land to all these like remote area, but I can utilize my skill to get myself in this industry. So I applied, and thankfully they liked my background and they hired me. So that's how I got into the expedition cruise industry. They taught me how to drive a Zodiac boat. They taught me how to do camping in Antarctica. I learned all these outdoor skills that I never would have done. And I've been to Antarctica for 3 seasons already.
Oh my gosh. Now, for me, just the flute player, could you please explain what all that means? Digital media and, expedition person. Let me guess. You get to go out and take the pictures of the penguins and the movies.
Of course.
And then show them for the cruise line or on the cruise line or for media for the cruise line. How does that work? Like, what do you do?
I love that.
I just play the flute.
People just ask me, like, what do you do?
They ask me that all the time, too.
Exactly. So for the role itself, digital engineer is kind of like the ship's IT officer. So I help with guest Wi-Fi. I help with people's system fail.
Other thing, though.
I thought it's a whole other thing too.
Okay, so now you're the IT person?
Yes, I was the IT officer on the ship.
Okay. That's a lot of responsibility. What would happen if you're on the ship, you're in Antarctica, and everything goes down? Well, they have backups.
Of course they have backup, but yes, that would be headache. And sometimes Wi-Fi broke down and that would be hectic. But I was very fortunate, very good shoreside manager that keeps in contact with us and will guide us through what to do. But on board itself, it's kind of the IT role on the expedition ship is kind of a merge of a digital media person that makes sure at least all the lectures and all the digital media thing that's showing the guests are working. So those I am used to from working at Royal Caribbean. Royal Caribbean's media hub has like thousands of screens around the ship, while like expedition ship would be like just 30 screens. So for me, that's okay. Like that's doable. And then all I need to learn for a whole new set of skill would be the actual IT thingy that I just learn very quickly because the job requires it.
Right.
So that's the job. And then the expedition part, I got trained. They trained me how to drive Zodiac. They trained me how to be an outdoor guide, how to take people for a kayak trip, how to guide people on a hiking trip. So those outdoor things the company provide training for, and all my colleagues are seasonal outdoor guides. So they're amazing. Some people kayak for their whole life, so I can count on them for any of those outdoor knowledge. So that was good. And then coming to a special thing that only I can provide on the expedition ship is I'm the IT person. The guests know I'm the IT girl. They go ask questions if they have internet question. Yeah. Nobody knew I was a flutist. So coming to the end of the trip, after they've seen all the penguins, I put out this multimedia flute storytelling show, and nobody tell the guests. So it came as a surprise because the expedition leader thinks it's such a good surprise. Nobody expected. And it works every single time. Nobody expected. And then somehow the last day I showed up dressed up as a musician for once, play the flute, tell the story, put on the video, and everyone's like, who are you? Like, who are you?
Amazing. And they don't ask what do you do? They say, who are you?
Yeah, because they knew me as the IT girl for like the whole 10 days. And then somehow on the last day I put on this show for them in my style and the style that I love, and tell the story that I wanted to share with them, play the music I love, and people to see how people enjoyed it. And after they have seen the scenery, and now put it all together as like a perfect ending for their voyage. It's very heartwarming. Like I really enjoy seeing their reaction.
That's beautiful. I love that. What a great story. Do you use some of the stories from the cruise, like that specific cruise? Do you like throw it into the media, or do you have a set show and it's set and you just press play? Or is it like flexible? Can you change out the media?
I try to stay flexible because I know my colleagues come and go and come and back. So I always wanted to include something special. So I have a few things that Antarctica, I will always open with the same piece, but like in the middle, if I feel like this trip calls for a certain piece, then I will put it in. I work with one of my French colleagues into a poetry because he reads this beautiful Expedition Explorer poetry. And I was like, oh my gosh, we have to collab on something. So we did a poetry / my own arrangement on the theme music of Skyrim, which is very epic. It's a very epic music. And you combine these two things together, it makes people cry every single time.
Amazing.
It just makes the guests cry every time. So if he's on board, then I pull this one out. And it's sort of flexible. I like to make my show customized for the voyage.
Oh, that's incredible. Well, I call you my Disney princess for a reason. You love Disney. Talk about your projects revolving around these songs.
Well, so like, I've always wanted to create all these music videos. One of the reasons is, as you already knew, I love working with video walls. I love to have another dimension for my show. So I wanted to film these music videos to express what I feel towards certain pieces, and also to make them kind of travel related because of my job and my work has been traveling around the world, and I want to capture the world's beauty, and I want to combine them with music. So that kind of led me onto this journey of like make music videos around the world, which is what I've been trying to do with what I could in the past 6 years. So of course, when I first started arranging music, I was like, yeah, I want to have my own version of Disney songs. I want to play my own version of Mulan and Lion King and all that. I don't want to just play the karaoke track. I want the arrangement to reflect me as a flutist and to show the capabilities of flute. So that kind of got me start arranging like more and more music, and to make them kind of into like showing what flute can do. It's still the melody that everybody recognizes, and I can play them in concert. So for me, that's a win-win situation for me.
I love it. I should say the latest video is Pirates.
Yay, Pirates of the Caribbean.
Well, right. So I messaged you and I said, wait, this is old, but it's new. What's happening? I've heard this before, but I haven't. Talk about that.
Right. So to produce a music video, you have basically the music part and the video part. So the music for the Pirates of the Caribbean has been finished for a few years, actually. But because I love this piece so much, like like we say, like you cannot wait for everything to be perfect to begin. Like sometimes beginning makes a scene perfect. I am a follower of that. to some extent. Pirates of the Caribbean is one of my favorite pieces, and I want to make sure the video does it justice. So I have been putting off of filming it because by the time the music portion was finished, I could not afford to hire my dream videographer to film for me. And I was like, yeah, sure, I could have do what I could at that time. But for Pirates of the Caribbean, it's like, now I want this to be good. I want this video to be great. I want this guy to film for me. So I've been waiting and saving up until the day I was like, okay, I can hire this videographer whose name is Landon. He's amazing. So I was like, okay, Landon, let's film this piece. And so that's why I only released the Pirates of the Caribbean this year.
Where did you film?
Actually, just in LA, outside of LA, yeah.
And tell people where they can find it.
It's on YouTube. It's on my YouTube channel. If you search YouTube, you just type in Noniko flute or Noniko Shu, you will find it.
Awesome. So you're speaking to my demographic and someone who has just entered this new era. I think you would want to give some words of wisdom to those who are only maybe, graduating. So it would be one of those, if you see yourself in 10 years, would you ever have imagined? Right. So what's
Absolutely.
your advice? Tell me, what's your advice for Izzy and Ella?
Wow, I wouldn't call myself wise at this moment because I feel like a lot of things that bring me to who I am today was totally unexpected. There were goals and things I wanted to do when I was 20 that didn't happen. And then there are things I never imagined possible when I was 20 that became possible. So what I think the most important thing is to maybe keep that open mind and keep the curiosity we had as a child. Like if you remember, like when we were little, maybe in elementary school, we were so curious and you want to try everything and you want to at least give something interesting a try before you mentally decide, like, I don't like this food, for example, I'm not going to drink it again. I think as adults, we should keep a level of that curiosity. And if where you want to go is being blocked by something that's outside of your control, it could very well be that life is opening a brand new door for you, but you have to be willing to give it a try. I would have never thought I would enjoy cruise ship. I was just like, try for once, try it for one contract. If I hated it, I don't have to sign another contract. There's nothing to lose. Like I would just say, like, there's nothing to lose. If you feel like you want to try something, like, try it. And if you don't like it, just don't continue it. Yeah.
And you're still smiling. It's so great to hear all your stories. What amazing journeys you've been on. And so much so that I asked for the cruise line that you work for.
If you like outdoor, if you like kayaking, if you love going to outdoor remote places, then Expedition Cruise is for you.
Noniko, it's interesting having a place on Lake Superior. I try to explain to people how warm it is in the sun, even when it's the temperature cold. Put me in the Antarctic sun. I'll be better there. So, like, what's the cruise line that we should look for to go see your show and be taken on a boat by you?
It's a very good question. Right now, I am a regular contractor with cruise lines such as, get ready, it's called Hurtigruten Expedition. It's Norwegian. Hurtigruten Expeditions.
Okay.
So they're short. Their acronym is HX. That makes it easier.
HX.
Short.
Okay.
That's the short. or Silver Sea Expedition. That's another cruise line that I regularly do contract with. They are both amazing, different styles, but I can guarantee you, you will have a great time. If you love outdoor, if you love paddling and the snow, then yes, expedition ship is for you.
Incredible. You're not guaranteed wildlife every time.
We don't guarantee wildlife, but if you go to Antarctica, we can sort of, like, I can sort of say, like, you will see penguins. I can't promise you how many you will see, but you probably will see penguins.
Definitely glaciers that are amazing, right?
Of course. And sometimes glaciers and icebergs are more amazing than the penguins, I would say.
Okay. What else are your favorite moments?
Oh, you will love this story. So also 10 years ago, I would have never believed this statement, but I love just standing on the bow of the ship and just listen for hours if the weather allows me. Just the crackling, fracturing sound of ice floating on the sea. It sounds insane, but they're some of the most beautiful sounds I've ever heard.
Oh my. I can just hear it. And wow. So what about the lights, the stars, the moon, everything?
Everything. It's like I've never heard, like, I went to camping in Antarctica once and I couldn't sleep for the whole night. Like, mind you, I didn't sleep for 5 minutes. And the reason why I couldn't fall asleep was because it was so quiet towards the point that it's so noisy. Like, all the noise are nature. Like, it's so quiet to the point you could hear what snow sounds like. You can hear a whale blow from, like, maybe hundreds of miles away. And it's just like we never quiet down so much in the city life to actually allow nature to take a center stage. And it's in those remote area, you feel like, oh my gosh, humans are so small if you are in the midst of this power and presence of raw nature. And I think that's one of the charms of going to these remote area that just draws me back and back again.
Incredible.
It's just an incredible experience that people have to experience it for themselves.
I'm starting to, up there at Lake Superior, as we build our tiny little 200 square foot cabin, and we're pretty much almost finished. We didn't have insulation for a long time, but I remember I'd be painting, and I thought I had heard a bunch of kids, because I hear a bunch of students or just children walking by. They were birds. They were seagulls having a party, being chased by an eagle. So I'll see two golden eagles. So I know now the difference between eagles, literally, that plover that's so prevalent up there. The seagulls are there. And the other thing was that I'd be painting and I'd see what I thought was an airplane, like a shadow, because we don't have electricity. So I'm sitting there painting and it's daylight, but then there's a shadow and it goes away. And I thought, oh, there's no airplanes around here. That is an eagle, right? Or a hawk or some massive bird. We hear coyotes. We call it the coyote drag race, but it is the most amazing thing. Okay, I should have been scared, but I woke up and I thought, this is the coolest sound I've ever heard, because they're yipping like dogs, but they're running. They're running. The sound is moving. Okay, here's another one. You start hearing the earth move, and like you hear, and you're like, why am I hearing the earth move? Well, that's a freighter on Lake Superior, and that's its engine. And it's way over there, out there. But the remoteness you're talking about, you have to get there. You cannot have lights around. You cannot have sounds around. And then you become like Yellowstone. That's the zoo where people are in the cars and the animals are out roaming. Like In the wild, you need to just remember that. You don't rule this area. For instance, I have a beach. It's not my beach. It's not a human beach. No, there's carcass on this beach, and it goes for miles. There's no, like, we respect our beach. And it is Lake Superior, so it's an inland ocean. It has waves, it has tides, and it's just, we are at the mercy. It has sunk so many hundreds of freighters. So I get what you're talking about. I think you are, I mean, I'm around humanity still there on Lake Superior at Whitefish Point, but you are literally, I mean, you're at the mercy of the weather and your guides and the best, like, I guess, what did you use? Just your phone? What did you use for your safety?
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of safety equipment that we bring on land,
good.
like warm jackets, all those wildness survival kits we have.
Okay.
But still, like, that reminds you again and again, like what you said, like, we humans are at the mercy of nature. And I think at those places, I mean, somehow, like, we study music, we study poetry, but there I feel like everything I learned came together. Like, all these arts and poetry and beauty, they came from nature. And it's just those inspiration I felt that's like, they're precious. They really are.
Just so proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
What would you like to tell people to do in terms of how they can reach out to you if they have any questions? Because I know a lot of us have websites, and we have, like, I have a podcast because I have so much information. Like, what are you offering people who want more Noniko, like right now?
Like right now. Okay,
like, they're going to turn off this podcast and go find you, which I know my family will do.
So I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and all the major music streaming platforms. You want to hear my arrangement music, they're on Spotify, Apple Music, whatever you use, they're on. Just search Noniko Shi or Noniko Flute. You can find me. YouTube, the same. Instagram handle is at Noniko Shi, and the same with my Facebook. I started helping people to book their expedition cruise with like tailor-made is like whatever people want, because every cruise ship does cater to a specific type of traveler. So I started like helping people choose like their perfect cruise. So if that sounds interested to you, like, feel free to reach out. I can be reached on all these major social media platforms. Or my website, but my website is mainly written in Mandarin Chinese, but I will respond to emails and messages.
Perfect. Sure. I have an idea. Okay, PorterFlute Pod listeners, we could go on a cruise with Noniko.
Yay! Please
come. Right?
Yes.
8 to 10 of us. We all just play the flute. We're nerds. We just don't know what we're doing, but let's go.
Let's come together. It's gonna be so much fun. And I'm the expedition guide. I can like take you guys on the hike together.
Yes, we'll live the flute cruise life.
Yeah,
Noniko, it's been a pleasure to have you on my Storytime episode. I appreciate all that you've done throughout the last 10 years, and you're going to continue to, like I said, be in my life forever. So do it. Just be you, because no one can be you except you.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thanks for being in PorterFlute Pod. Thank you for being in PorterFlute Pod, and thank you, Izzy and Ella, for helping me produce Season 7. If you enjoy our show and you want to review us and rate us, go to Apple Podcasts. You can find our show at PorterFlute.com. And you can find me at amyporter.com and on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and YouTube. I'm PorterFlute. Thanks for being in PorterFlute Pod. I'm so grateful for you.
Thank you for being in PorterFlute Pod, and thank you, Izzy and Ella, for helping me produce Season 7. If you enjoy our show and you want to review us and rate us, go to Apple Podcasts. You can find our show at PorterFlute.com. And you can find me at amyporter.com and on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and YouTube. I'm PorterFlute. Thanks for being in PorterFlute Pod. I'm so grateful for you.